You live in a world where everyone wants to be seen. Everyone wants to show something. The car, the watch, the lifestyle, the success. But let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. Real wealth? It doesn't make noise. Real wealth is built in silence. While they're posting, you're working. While they're flexing, you're building. While they're chasing validation, you're stacking discipline. Because the truth is, the louder someone is about their success, the more fragile it usually is. Think about it. If you're truly focused, truly obsessed, do you even have time to show off? No, because building something real, something lasting, it requires your full attention. It requires sacrifice, late nights, early mornings, missed parties, missed comfort. And nobody claps for that. Nobody sees the grind when it's happening. They only see the result. And even then, they misunderstand it. They think it happened overnight. They think you got lucky. They don't see the years you spent being invisible. They don't see the times you doubted yourself. They don't see the discipline it took to stay consistent when nothing was working. And that's exactly why most people fail. Because they want the attention before they've earned the success. They want to look rich instead of becoming rich. Let me break something down for you. There are two types of people in this world. The ones who spend money to impress others, and the ones who invest money to improve their future. One group is focused on image. The other is focused on impact. One wants validation today. The other is building freedom tomorrow. And here's the harsh reality. You cannot do both at the same level. Every dollar you waste trying to look successful is a dollar you're taking away from your future. Every moment you spend comparing yourself to others is a moment you could have used to level up. You see, silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. When you move in silence, you eliminate distractions. You stop seeking approval. You stop explaining yourself. You stop announcing your next move to people who don't even want to see you win. Because not everyone clapping for you is rooting for you. Some people are watching, waiting, hoping you fail. And when you start understanding that, you move differently. You stop talking so much. You start doing more. You let your results speak instead of your words. And trust me, results speak louder than anything you can ever post online. Because real wealth is not about what people see. It's about what they don't see. It's about ownership. It's about assets. It's about control over your time. It's about waking up without an alarm, not because you're lazy, but because you've built a life where you don't have to answer to anyone. That kind of freedom, it doesn't come from showing off. It comes from locking in. It comes from making smart decisions over and over again, even when it's boring, even when it's slow, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Because here's something you need to understand. Growth is silent. Progress is invisible at first, just like a seed planted in the ground. For a long time, it looks like nothing is happening. No movement, no results, no proof. But underneath the surface, roots are growing, strength is building, and one day, it breaks through. And when it does, people call it sudden success. But you know the truth. You know the work that went into it. You know the discipline it took to stay patient. And that's why you don't rush the process. You respect it, because anything built fast can fall fast. But what's built slowly with consistency, with intention, that lasts. That's real wealth. And the people who understand this, they don't need to prove anything to anyone. They're not in competition with the world. They're in competition with who they were yesterday. They're focused, locked in, driven. They're not distracted by what others are doing. They're too busy building their own path. And that's exactly where you need to be. Not on social media, comparing your life. Not trying to impress people who don't matter. Not chasing attention, but chasing growth, chasing discipline, chasing financial freedom. Because at the end of the day, likes don't pay your bills. Comments don't build your future. Attention doesn't create stability. Only work does. Only discipline does. Only consistency does. So ask yourself, are you building or are you performing? Are you focused on your future or your image? Because one leads to real success, and the other, it's just an illusion. And illusions don't last. Most people are addicted to the illusion. They don't want wealth. They want the appearance of wealth. They want to feel important. They want to be noticed. They want to be validated. And social media made it easy. Now you can rent a lifestyle, post a highlight, and make the world believe you've made it. But behind the screen, debt, stress, pressure, confusion. Because when you build your life on appearance, you become a prisoner of it. You have to keep up the image. You have to keep spending. You have to keep proving something to people who aren't even thinking about you. That's not freedom. That's a trap. And the scariest part? Most people don't even realize they're in it. They think they're winning because people are watching. But attention is not success. Let me say that again. Attention is not success. You can have millions of views and still be broke. You can have thousands of followers and still have no direction, because visibility without value means nothing. Real wealth is built differently. It's built quietly. It's built patiently. It's built when nobody is watching. It's built when you choose long-term growth over short-term pleasure. And that's where most people fail, because discipline is hard. It's not exciting. It's not glamorous. Nobody celebrates you for saving money. Nobody claps when you invest instead of spending. Nobody posts about the nights you stayed in, while everyone else was out chasing temporary happiness. But that's the difference. That's the separation. That's what sets apart those who make it from those who just talk about it. Because while they're chasing moments, you're building momentum. While they're upgrading their lifestyle, you're upgrading your mindset. While they're focused on looking rich, you're focused on becoming rich. And those two paths, they lead to completely different destinations. One leads to a life of pressure, constantly trying to keep up. The other leads to a life of control, where money works for you. And understand this, delayed gratification is your greatest weapon. Being able to say no today so you can say yes tomorrow, that's power. That's discipline. That's how wealth is created. Because every time you resist the urge to show off, you strengthen your future. Every time you choose to invest instead of impress, you move one step closer to freedom. But it requires something most people don't have: patience. Because real wealth doesn't come fast. It grows slowly, silently, steadily, and in a world that's obsessed with instant results. That's uncomfortable. People want quick money, quick success, quick recognition. But anything quick rarely lasts. And deep down, you already know that. That's why you feel it. That pressure, that voice inside telling you, there has to be more than this. And there is. But you have to be willing to do what others won't. You have to be willing to disappear for a while, to go quiet, to focus, to work when nobody is cheering for you, to build when nobody believes in you. Because that's where the real transformation happens. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. That's where habits are formed. That's where discipline is built. That's where you become dangerous. Because when you stop chasing attention, you start chasing mastery. And mastery, that's what pays. That's what creates leverage. That's what separates the average from the elite. Because anyone can talk. Anyone can post. Anyone can pretend. But not everyone can stay consistent. Not everyone can stay focused when results are slow. Not everyone can keep going when nobody is watching. That's rare. And rarity creates value. So if you're in that phase right now, where it feels like nothing is happening, good. Stay there. Because that's where the foundation is being built. That's where you're developing the mindset that most people will never have. A mindset that doesn't need validation. A mindset that doesn't need approval. A mindset that understands, I'm not doing this to be seen. I'm doing this to be free. And freedom? Freedom is expensive. It costs time. It costs comfort. It costs your old habits. It costs your old identity. You can't become wealthy while thinking like someone who's broke. You can't build a different life while holding on to the same mindset. Something has to change. And that change starts with your priorities. Stop asking, how can I look successful? Start asking, how can I become valuable? Because value is what creates income. Value is what creates opportunities. Value is what attracts success without you having to chase it. And when you focus on that, everything shifts. You stop wasting energy. You stop comparing. You stop chasing things that don't matter, and you start building something real, something solid, something that doesn't need to be shown, because it speaks for itself. That's the goal. Not attention, not applause, not approval, but independence, control, freedom. And the only way to get there is to embrace the silence, to understand that just because nobody sees your progress doesn't mean it's not happening. Just because nobody is clapping doesn't mean you're not winning. Because real winners, they're not loud, they're focused, they're disciplined, they're patient, they're building something behind the scenes while the world is distracted. And one day, when it all comes together, when the results finally show, when the life you've been working for becomes real, people will look at you and say, "You got lucky." They came out of nowhere. Overnight success. And you'll just smile because you know the truth. You know the nights. You know the sacrifices. You know the silence. And most importantly, you know it was worth it. At some point, it hits you. Not all at once. Not like a loud wake-up call. But slowly, quietly, you start realizing that the life most people are chasing isn't even real. It's manufactured, scripted, filtered. You see people smiling in pictures, but you can't see the stress behind their eyes. You see luxury, but you don't see the loans attached to it. You see celebration, but you don't see the emptiness that follows. And that's when something shifts inside you. You stop being impressed. You stop being distracted. You start seeing through the illusion. Because once you understand that most people are performing, you lose the desire to compete with them. You don't want their lifestyle. You don't want their validation. You don't want their attention. You want something deeper, something real, something that can't be taken away when the camera turns off. And that's where your journey truly begins. Not when you decide to look successful, but when you decide to become disciplined. Because discipline is where everything changes. It's not motivation. Motivation is temporary. It comes and goes. Some days you feel unstoppable. Other days you feel nothing. But discipline doesn't care how you feel. It shows up anyway. It works anyway. It executes even when you're tired, even when you're bored, even when you don't feel like it. And that's what most people avoid. Because discipline is uncomfortable. It forces you to face yourself, your excuses, your habits, your weaknesses. It exposes everything you've been hiding from. And that's painful. But that pain, that's where growth lives. You can't grow without discomfort. You can't level up without pressure. You can't build wealth while staying in your comfort zone. So you have a choice. Stay comfortable and stay average, or get uncomfortable and build something extraordinary. But understand this. The moment you choose the second path, your life will change. Not immediately, not in a way that everyone can see, but internally, you become different. You start thinking differently. Moving differently, prioritizing differently. You stop caring about what people think. You stop explaining your goals. You stop announcing your plans. Because you realize talk can give you a false sense of progress. It makes you feel like you're doing something, when in reality, you're not. Execution is what matters. Action is what matters. Consistency is what matters. And those things, they happen in silence. No audience, no applause. No recognition, just you and the work, day after day, step by step. And this is the part where most people quit, because it gets lonely, it gets repetitive, it gets hard. You don't see results right away. You don't get rewarded immediately. You start questioning yourself. Is this even worth it? Am I wasting my time? Why is nothing happening? And that's the test. That's the moment that defines everything. Because the people who succeed, they don't stop there. They push through it. They keep going, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it's slow, even when it's frustrating, because they understand something most people don't. Results are delayed. Success is delayed. But progress is happening every single day, even when you can't see it. Every skill you're learning, every habit you're building, every sacrifice you're making, it's adding up, quietly, silently, powerfully, like pressure building underground. And one day, It explodes. But until that day comes, you have to trust the process. You have to trust yourself. And most importantly, you have to stay locked in, because distractions are everywhere. People will try to pull you back into the noise, back into the comparison, back into the need for validation. They'll question you, doubt you, laugh at you. Why are you working so hard? Why are you so quiet? Why don't you enjoy life? They don't understand. They can't understand, because they're not willing to do what you're doing. They want the result without the sacrifice. They want the reward without the discipline. And when they see you choosing a different path, it makes them uncomfortable. So they try to pull you back. Don't let them. Stay focused. Stay disciplined. Stay silent. Because the version of you they're laughing at today is the same version they'll envy tomorrow. And when that day comes, don't forget this. It wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. It was the nights you kept going when you wanted to quit. It was the mornings you got up when you felt exhausted. It was a discipline to stay consistent when nobody was watching. That's what built you. That's what created your success. Not the posts, not the attention, not the validation. The work, the sacrifice, the silence. And here's the part nobody talks about. When you finally reach a certain level, when you finally start seeing results, you won't even feel the need to show it off, because you've outgrown that mindset. You've evolved. You realize that real wealth isn't loud. It's calm. It's secure. It's controlled. It's walking into a room and not needing anyone to notice you. It's having money and not feeling the urge to prove it. It's having options and choosing peace over attention. That's power. That's real power. And it only comes from one place: discipline and silence. So if you're in that phase right now, where nobody sees your effort, where nobody understands your vision, where it feels like you're alone in your journey, good. That means you're on the right path. Because the loud path, that's crowded. Everyone is there. Everyone is talking. Everyone is competing for attention. But the silent path, that's different. That's where builders are. That's where leaders are created. That's where real wealth is built. And it's not easy, but it's worth it, every second of it. Because at the end of it all, you won't just have money. You'll have something far more valuable: control over your life, freedom over your time, peace in your mind, and a level of confidence that can't be faked, that can't be bought, that can't be taken away. So keep going, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Because something is happening. You are becoming someone most people will never become. And one day, when the world finally sees what you've built, they'll think it happened overnight. But you'll know it was built in silence. There comes a moment when everything changes, not because the world suddenly notices you, but because you finally understand the game. You realize this was never about showing people anything. It was never about proving them wrong. It was never about being seen. It was about becoming someone who doesn't need to be seen. That's the shift. That's the level most people never reach, because they're too busy chasing attention to ever build something real. But you chose differently. You chose the hard path, the quiet path, the path where there are no shortcuts, no applause, no instant rewards, just work, just discipline, just consistency. And now you're starting to feel it, that internal confidence, that calm energy, that silent power. You don't need to talk about your goals anymore. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need validation, because you know what you're building. You know where you're going. And most importantly, you know who you're becoming. And that's dangerous, because when a person becomes fully focused, fully disciplined, fully committed, there's nothing that can stop them. Not opinions, not doubt, not failure, nothing, because they've already won the hardest battle, the battle against themselves. And that's what this journey was really about. Not money, not status, not success, but mastery. Mastery over your mind, your habits, your actions. Because once you control those, everything else follows. Money becomes a byproduct. Success becomes inevitable. And freedom becomes your reality. But let's be real for a second. This journey wasn't easy. There were moments you wanted to quit, moments you felt lost, moments where nothing made sense. You questioned yourself. You doubted your path. You wondered if all this effort would even pay off. And yet, you kept going. You stayed silent. You stayed focused. You stayed disciplined. While others were talking, you were working. While others were flexing, you were building. While others were distracted, you were locked in. And now look at you. You're not the same person anymore. You've grown. You've evolved. You've leveled up in ways people can't even see. And that's the best part. Because the most powerful transformations, they're invisible. They happen internally, mentally, emotionally. And once that transformation is complete, the external results, they're just a matter of time. So don't rush it. Don't force it. Don't try to skip steps. Because the process is what makes it real. The struggle is what makes it valuable. The silence is what makes it powerful. And one day, everything you've been working for will show up. Not all at once, but piece by piece, opportunity by opportunity, win by win, until you look around and realize you built the life you once dreamed about. And the craziest part, you did it quietly. No announcements, no validation, no need to prove anything. Just results, just freedom, just peace. That's real wealth. Not the cars, not the watches, not the posts, but the ability to live life on your terms. To wake up and do what you want. To spend time with who you love. To not be controlled by money, but to have money working for you. That's the goal. That's the mission. And if you're listening to this right now, if you made it this far, then understand something. You're not average, because average people don't think like this. Average people don't commit like this. Average people don't stay disciplined when it gets hard. So don't go back to that mindset. Don't fall back into the noise. Don't get distracted by people who are still chasing attention. You're different now. You've seen the truth. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So keep going. Stay silent. Stay focused. Stay disciplined. Because the version of you you're becoming is worth every sacrifice, every late night, every early morning, every moment of doubt. And when you finally get there, when you finally reach that level, remember this feeling. Remember the struggle. Remember the silence. Because that's what built you. That's what made you. That's what separated you from everyone else. And now, let the world talk. Let them guess. Let them wonder how you did it. You don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe them a show. You don't owe them anything. Because while they were watching, you were working. While they were doubting, you were building. While they were loud, you were silent. And that silence, that's where your power came from. That's where your wealth was built. So keep it that way. And let your life do all the talking. Call to action. Add this at the end of your video. If this message hit you, if you're ready to stop chasing attention and start building real wealth, then don't just watch, take action. Subscribe to the channel. Commit to yourself and start moving in silence. Because your future, it's built on what you do today, not what you show. Stay disciplined. Stay focused. And remember, real wealth is built in silence. Fire